Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined tonight by Edgar Wright.
Sorry, it's late at night. I'm just having some coffee to wake up.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I've been to Glastonbury a couple of times, well, in my life, but I have never been to the cinema tent. This is my first time here. I know, right?
Missing out.
Nice to be here. Nice to see you here. Well, there's so many other things you could do, and you came to watch this movie. I appreciate it.
Tell us very briefly the setup for this one. Where did it come from? Because it was with you for a very long time before you made this.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that it's playing at a music festival because, I mean, I guess Glastonbury isn't everything festival, but I was sort of inspired to make the movie by listening to one song. I basically listened to the song that opens the movie by the John Spencer blues explosion, Bell Bottoms, and I had it on audio cassette, and this was when I was just starting out. I'd made my first film, A Fistful of Fingers, but around that time I was listening to that song over and over and over again, and I just started to visualize a car chase to go with that song. This is when I was 21. So I knew that I wasn't going to make this movie with a massive car chase in it. So it was kind of fermenting in my head for a long, long time. And then 17 years before we made it, I did a music video in 2002 that was like a dry run for this, featuring Noel Fielding, Julian Barrett, and Nick Frost, and Michael Smiley. If you notice, there's a tiny clip of Noel Fielding's voice in the movie. You can hear a clip of the original music video. But basically, I just had this idea about the song made me think of a car chase, and then that turned into the idea of a driver who has to listen to music to be able to do anything, not just drive. And then that turned into the idea that he has tinnitus, which some people kind of use music to kind of drown out tinnitus. And I had attacks of tinnitus when I was a kid, so I could, sympathize with that. So that's sort of how it came about. So it was this idea that I had the opening scene, and then over the years, I eventually started writing the whole movie. So, and in a way, songs informed the entire thing because I would have songs picked out, but then sometimes when I was writing the script, I wouldn't write the scene until I'd found the right song. And then I gave him further where I tried to make it eclectic, like it was just on shuffle on his iPod. So I would just go onto my iTunes, when people still used to use iTunes all the time, and sometimes figure out how long the scene would be, and then find a song of that duration. And sometimes I get to a point saying, oh, I don't know what song's in this diner scene. Let's find the song. And then kind of just try lots of things and then say, oh, this Beach Boys instrumental, let's try that. So it's kind of the way that I wrote the movie. It was sort of writing the movie and creating the soundtrack at the same time.
That's something you share with Quentin Tarantino as well, isn't it? He does a lot of that sort of writing with music in mind for certain scenes.
Yeah, I think there's, I think music makes me visualize, scenes. And I think even, I was saying this to my friend the other day, even when I was a child listening to Beatles songs, I would start to kind of visualize stories to go with them. Way before I, wanted to be a director, you'd start to kind of come up with visuals for the songs. So I guess it's something that just music inspires me to come up with scenes,
So, I mean, I'm guessing Bell Bottoms is the answer to this, but were there songs that you had to have? You're the movie will not work without this particular one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tricky thing is that you can't let people know how important the songs are to you. Because sometimes if the publishers know how integral the song is to the movie, they'll add another zero onto the end of how much it costs. But a lot of the key songs in the film were ones that I'd kind of earmarked for a long time. The big set pieces. So usually there's no B choice. And very rarely do we change the songs. And there's one song in the movie that I changed in the edit and reshot part of the scene. There was one song, because when you put a song in a movie, you have to listen to it about 500 times. And there was one song in the edit that really started to get on my tits. And so I was trying to think, oh, I got to find like another song because this song is now driving me crazy. And I did switch it out, but we had to reshoot part of the scene to make it work.
I mean, because you are very precise with your cutting to music, like to a degree that very few people do. So that must have been hellishly difficult. Is that fair?
I mean, it is and it isn't, because it's like you're reverse engineering scenes to the songs. Like, for example, if you know, in the opening sequence when he goes to get the coffee, it's all set to Harlem Shuffle. So what that meant is that when we were finding a location, we'd have the song like on an iPhone, and you'd find a door that you liked. To say, okay, we like this door. This door is going to be the exterior of the building, the warehouse that they're in. And we needed to get to a coffee shop by the chorus. So we just walk from that door, playing Harlem Shuffle on the phone, just go different directions. And I'm sure if people were watching us on the street, it's like, what the fuck are those guys doing? Why are there like 5 men walking around like playing Harlem Shuffle? And eventually you get to something and you'd say, oh, here's the chorus. This could be a coffee shop. I think it was actually a pizza shop that we turned into a coffee shop. So there's weird things like that where in a weird way, it's like, it makes it very precise and you have to choreograph everything. We had an amazing choreographer on the movie, Ryan Heffington, you know, who I hired after he did the Chandelier video for Sia, and I was like, he's the guy. And so he choreographed the whole thing. But we would work with the songs all the time, and so the actors would know the songs off by heart. And we played the songs on the set the entire time. Sometimes they'd be out loud, sometimes they'd be earwigs in their ears. Sometimes the tequila scene, when there's the big shootout, nothing was louder than the blank firing guns, so you just couldn't hear the track anymore. And then one of my favorite things was watching the choreo. We had to figure out another way to do it because we just couldn't hear the track. So then, if you've seen the movie, they're shooting in time with the music. So we literally had to break it down into parts. And it was so funny, even with an actor like Jamie Foxx and lots of stuntmen, for me and the choreographer to say, and then you go bang, 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 and then you go bang, bang. And it's just like it was like kind of having like a playground fight with like, it was amazing. It was like, so that was things like that you kind of haven't anticipated are always like sort of wild. But, you know, the songs would be playing in all the time on set, you know. And so in a way it makes it difficult because it's very choreographed, but it also makes it very precise. Like, all of the scenes are as long as the songs. And sometimes, and that's it. It's actually the film that I made with the least deleted scenes, the least kind of extra footage, because it's like, it is what it is. It's like, this is the length of the song, you know?
So how much rehearsal time did you have to achieve that?
We did a lot of rehearsal, especially, you know, with actors doing the choreography. So Anson and Lily did a lot. I mean, pretty much everything that we had to choreograph in time with the music. So there's great, if you have the Blu-ray, there's amazing sort of videos of people getting in and out of cars to music. And so, we did a lot of choreography. I mean, a lot of rehearsal for the choreography, yeah.
Is this essentially your musical? Like, do you feel like you've made a musical?
I love working with choreographers. It's so much fun. It's so precise. And you sort of have to get actors. Most of the actors in it have some kind of, if not a musical background, or at least played an instrument. And that's like a big part of it, because you have to get all of the actors on board to sort of be in time with the music. But I love doing choreography. It's so much fun.
So tell us about the action side. Some of the stunts were, I mean, a lot of it was done for real, obviously with cars. Some of them are freaking scary looking. Were they very, very scary to shoot?
I mean, we all shot it for real in Atlanta. I mean, it's not scary to shoot, but sometimes, you know, they have this thing where you like follow in a van with a satellite link up. I think the entirety of Fury Road was done like that. But frequently the satellite link like craps out and so you can't see anything. So after that happening a couple of times, sometimes, because the camera operators would sometimes be strapped to the car, and I'd be like, strap me to the car as well. So it's a really rare thrill to be going backwards at 80 miles an hour with a monitor. But then I could literally, so in some of those sequences, I'm like sitting at the front of the car, like strapped in, looking at the actors through the windscreen, which is pretty wild. The other thing is that the scene at the start where they have the freeway chase, the main freeway in Atlanta, I think on a Sunday morning between like 6 a.m. and 2 p.m., we didn't close the freeway. We had what's called the bubble, where you have this like motorcade of police cars, and you're driving around the freeway. And the thing is, it's all on, this is a Sunday. You can't do it on any other day. But on the radio, it's like sort of, if you're wondering why there's a traffic jam, the film Baby Driver is currently shooting on the I-85. And the comedian Kumail Nanjiani, he was shooting a movie in Atlanta at the same time called, is it called Fist Fight or something? Something like that. And he texted me whilst I was shooting the scene. He says, "Are you shooting on the I-85 today?" And I said, "Yes." And he texted back, "All of Atlanta hates you." So it was, doing all of that stuff was pretty crazy. I mean, shooting on a real freeway in Atlanta, and there's some shots in the movie that like the stunt guys just did some amazing driving. This guy, Jeremy Fry, who was the driver, like the shot where he turns onto the freeway is like off the ramp is like amazing, or like at the start when he does the 270 like turn around the corner. So I'm always like in awe of those shots of what those guys do. And I think in some ways it's like when you're making a movie like this, you're living vicariously, like unless something goes terribly, terribly wrong, I'm unlikely to get in a high-speed chase with the police, although it could happen. But like in a way, it's like you kind of think, like this is as close as I'll get to being in a car chase, maybe.
This
could still happen.
We're back to the Orson Welles, this is the biggest train set a boy can ever have, is a movie set kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was really intense. I mean, it was like, it wasn't, no like film like this is easy to make. When people say things look effortless, that means that, it's like a duck. It's like smooth on the top and pedaling furiously underneath. So it's like, it's a hell of a lot of work putting this together. But when it comes together in the edit and when it comes together with the music, there's nothing better,
I did want to ask, though, about the car stunts. Like, what were those early discussions with your stunt team like? Was it a matter of, like, you saying, so here's what I want you to do, and them sort of going, or were they like, ooh, we never get to do that. Ooh.
I don't know. I think I think the main thing was actually sort of really working to the music, as we had to kind of find specific things for specific places, and also you had to work out when the turns were going to come on the blocks. Like the first chase is actually pretty geographically specific to the Atlanta streets. So it's a weird thing where you just have to kind of work out the path of it to go with the song. So I think for the stunt guys, I think they really enjoyed it, but they also have never done anything where it was so specific of like, oh, he has to turn here, or then we have to have a straight, and then there has to be a traffic light, and he has to turn again. So it was, building up this kind of little sequence to go with the song, which I don't think they were used to doing.
I do want to ask about just your memories of the movie overall, because this was, first of all, a really big hit, and kind of embraced around the world. This was not like, oh, here's a cool little British movie that you might not have heard of. This was like, here is a massive blockbuster. Did that feel good? Because quite frankly, we've talked about before, a couple of your previous movies had not done what they should have done.
What?
If there was any justice in the world. Scott Pilgrim, Hive Unite. But, did that feel good? Because it's also like it's got a classic love story in it. It's got this kind of underdog hero. Like it feels like it has all these really pleasing elements.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience. Like, it was an amazing experience, like, promoting the movie. Like, Leo, who's over there, who works with me, we did, like, the longest, like, press tour of all time. We did, like, something like 18 countries. It was amazing. And it was because we had no other summer plans, and they kept adding, like, countries. I was like, sure. I mean, I've never been to China, so let's do it, But it was an amazing feeling, because it's not all, I think only twice in my career, like I've been in a test screening where the studio is like really genuinely happy, as in, and it was, maybe Hot Fuzz was one, and this was the other one where, you know, it's like, I remember this because the head of the studio, Tom Rothman, you know, heads of studios can be quite imposing, and you know, he has a reputation. And I remember when it was this test screening, and everybody's filling out their cards, and his assistant came out and said, "Tom wants to see you outside." I was like, oh no. And so I went into the foyer, and then he just leaned over and he said, "This film's going to be a massive hit." And I just crumbled. I just sort of wasn't, nobody had ever said anything like that, because usually they kind of keep you kind of, you know, they're usually pretty inscrutable and aloof, and they don't really because they don't really know. Nobody knows. So it was a bizarre thing for like a studio head to say that before it had come out. But it did, you know, was an amazing feeling to feel that they really had a belief in the movie as well. So that was an amazing experience. And and it's also just a crazy thing to sort of a film that I had the idea for in my bedroom in Wood Green, you know, when I was 21, and then it's plays around the world, you know. It was amazing, you know.
We maybe have time for one or two quick audience questions, if you're quick. Okay, really quick. I want you to summarize your thought and give me your question. Okay, I'm gonna have to maybe, you know, yeah.
I'd love if the question was, what did you think of Dua Lipa's set?
It was good. What would you recommend?
It was good.
It was good. How would you recommend someone to get into the industry, to do what you do?
I mean, I think the honest answer is nowadays you have more opportunity and more platforms than I did when I was starting out. I'm from Somerset. I grew up in Wales, and I got my start just making kind of amateur movies. You know, I went to Wells Blue School, the comprehensive in Wales. Did you go to Wells Blue School? There you go. Well, that's it. I mean, I just started making amateur movies with school friends and teachers, and at that time there was only maybe a couple of outlets to. There was occasionally things on TV, occasionally BBC shows. There was a competition on Going Live. There would be young person's film festivals. There's so much more of that now than there was then. And also there's the internet, where in theory you could put a short film online, and if it's really good, you know, it could get seen by millions and millions of people. So the honest answer is there's nothing stopping you from making a movie and getting out there. I didn't have anything handed to me. I didn't know anybody in the business. It was literally films that I made at the school that you went to that got me where I am today.
Very quick question. Anybody else? Yes?
Is there any sort of modern films or directors that have inspired you recently, sort of more recent things come out?
Oh.
Good question.
That is a good question.
You watch everything, but you watch a lot of, you know, old films as well.
I do. I mean, there's lots of directors coming up that I think are amazing. I really like Rose Glass. I think she's great. I love Love Lies Bleeding. I mean, in terms of but then also people who I grew up on or even were making movies before I was born are still making movies. Somebody like George Miller, I just take my hat off to him in terms of, you know, he's 79, he makes a movie like Furiosa, and I just think, oh my God, I hope I'm still making films when I'm 79, or Scorsese is 81. So I think sort of, you know, I'm trying to think of other younger directors that I really like, but let's say Rose Glass.
All right, well, I'm afraid we are going to have to wrap it up because you do have an entire film to watch at this point. Thank you guys for your questions, and huge thanks to Edgar Wright.
Thanks for having me. Enjoy the movie.
Edgar,
thanks for coming,
you.
Guys. Enjoy.